my best man at my wedding, who was an internist for 45 years, said, Dave, what do you think the three biggest indicators of a long life? And I said, well, genes. He said, that's number 3. I said, taking care of yourself. He said, that's number 2. I said, what's number 1? He said, luck. The first one was in 1966 when our friends the Kleins, my wife Laura and I went to Bermuda for a vacation. They got a 1966 19-foot Boston Whaler. The guy told me it cannot sink. Ruth Klein did not swim, okay? So we get out in the middle of the harbor. All of a sudden the waves are coming into the boat. All of a sudden we have 2 or 3 feet of water in the boat, and we were starting to panic. All of a sudden I saw what I thought was a beach ahead. We didn't know where we were. We got out. All of a sudden 2 machine guns are pointing at us by naval people, military police, asking us what we were doing there. Laura, Ruth, and Lou became hysterical laughing. They thought it was funny. I was very serious. I was answering the questions.
It's a classic dad story in that brings out the humor of dad taking things, being very serious about something. I think the funniest thing about this story is that Mom and Mr. and Mrs. Klein were all hysterically laughing.
Ruth and Lou Klein and I just couldn't believe anything bad would happen, and we started laughing. And Dad said stop because it was really serious. He knew it was serious, and he's right.
It was a top secret nuclear refueling station. He said, you're lucky that you wound up on the rear of the Air Force Base, because if you were in the naval base, because if you were in the front, they would have shot you first, then asked questions. Here's the base. That's Bermuda. So that was number 1. I was on business in East Los Angeles, 1987. It's Thursday morning, about 20 to 8. All of a sudden, the lights go out, they're shaking and swaying. At that time, television sets were on the wall. The television came off the wall. Everything was shaking, and I said, it's an earthquake. I'm sure it's an earthquake. I went to the exit sign, go down, get in the car. There's no traffic lights. I called home. I told Mark I'm all right. He said, what do you mean you're all right? I said, well, get on the news. You'll see it. There was a huge earthquake in Los Angeles. We were a mile from the epicenter.
The good thing for me was he always wanted to move to California, and after that earthquake, he never said it again.
I was going to New York City. I was taking the train, the local Amtrak train, to 30th Street and then into New York.
Of the three tales of death of Dad, I think of the boat story with the military and the earthquake to be kind of humorous ones, because he would tell them with humor.
Right.
But the story about the train accident,
That I remember.
there's nearly nothing funny about that. I mean, people got...
I think 1 or 2 people were killed in that
Yeah.
in that crash.
Yeah.
The New York Times front page across 600 people hurt and 1 conductor killed. And got some bruises and some few cuts. The train filled with smoke. People started to panic. I took my briefcase and I broke open their plastic windows. I broke open the window and spent the next 45 minutes helping people off the train. I have never seen so much blood, broken noses, because when people didn't know that it was going to crash, all of a sudden, can you picture this? They went like this, and their face hit the seat. So I got on the train, the Amtrak train, went to New York, and people are saying, were you on that train crash and you're here? I said, well, I just got bruised.
They always put perspective when you think about it. But I don't know if it really, if maybe he considers it that it shaped him, but I'm not sure. I think he feels very lucky. I don't know if it shaped him. I don't know how he feels about that. He never talked about it.
I don't think they've affected him.
I don't think not anything more than he's already affected.
I think that you've survived his mother.
Right. I think that's far more traumatic.
Ted, do we have 3 weeks? Of course. I wrote a 40-page essay for a psychology class in college about my mother. Basically, I was lived with my mother and father till I was 2. She wasn't a very good mother. She admits that.
Grandma Mimi needed to command the room at all times. And even as a little kid, you could always feel that, even if you didn't really understand what that meant. That was very obvious. And that became much more apparent as life went on.
Here I am, Grandma Mimi, 75 years young. Been to Vegas, now for 15 years. Did you ever see a gal like me?
When my father kicked her out of the house, my grandmother came in to take care of me. When I was 13, my father remarried, and my grandmother left the house. So what I wound up doing is having feelings of abandonment, trust issues. The bad thing about that is you can't love somebody 100% because you're afraid if you love them 100%, they're going to leave you or disappoint you or abandon you. But through therapy, I think I got to about 80%. They say a sign of health is who you marry. Well, if who I married reflects on my own health, I must be the healthiest person in the world. Because I got a gem in Grandma Laura. I think everybody knows. There's no good contest. I mean, you have a good contest with Grandma Laura, you come in second.
Our marriage has been interesting. I think that if I wasn't married to Papa, I wouldn't have done a lot of the things that we have done. He makes life interesting. Sometimes I get annoyed with him. And that's normal. He's there for people. And he's a good person. And to me, that's very important.
This is what I've always believed, is I think that Dad was very intent in being a very present father in our lives because of his mother not being a very consistent present force in his everyday life. So I think he was very determined to provide, from his perspective and obviously from Mom's, a very stable and loving parent situation because he did not experience that growing up.
And I think it's in his blood. His mother could tell a story.
Yes, that was way less than 90% fact-based.
I think he's a very good storyteller because he's a very good imitator. So I think when he tells his stories, he really makes them like you're really experiencing the story. So,
do you feel like he exaggerates at all?
Sometimes, yes.
I think that the stories are probably 80 to 90% true and 10 to 20% enhanced.
Being the kind of person he is, he probably exaggerates a little bit.
I think he exaggerates.
No, it depends on what it is. Not that much.
Why do I tell you the stories about escaping death? I just thought it was an interesting story. I don't think there was anything hidden agenda like, well, therefore you should not take the little stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. I don't think I did it for any reason except I thought it was an interesting story. And maybe in back of my mind was, have adventures. Good, bad, and indifferent. You can always learn from an outcome.
I can't imagine being married to somebody else, and it's 55 years.
I mean, I love my dad.
Abigail is quite a gal, as anyone can see. With a smile that can beguile, she's everything to me. I don't remember the rest of it. Sorry about the last two.